Hello, Perfect Death here, and I'm bringing another game here. This is called Songs of Six. It's a sort of colony builder type of game, but a very wide one. Currently, I'm guessing there's a thunderstorm outside in this particular world. Essentially, you generate a world. You can see this. There's this really big world that generated up here, and you start off by picking the region that you're going to start off with, where your city is. And so I set this sort of area here, this region right along this river, kind of near a mountain, as my starting area. And with recent update, they let you build up your own armies in your region, and you can actually go and like take over other regions and stuff. So you can even see some of these other factions have their own little armies roaming around. And I won't be able to do that for quite a bit because like I have a garrison of only 83 right now, and this guy's got a garrison of 897. Now I can like recruit from the area population, so it might be able to build up enough troops, but I then need to supply them with food and rations and equipment, and that's kind of where your how you design your city is, because you start off with just your throne here and like 10 people, and right now I am at 2,200 population, right? So if I actually zoom out, all these little blue dots are people. So if I go and set like the speed here, you can see them all move around. If I zoom out even more, you can see all those little blue dots. Everybody's moving around. Go to the fastest speed, and little dots just zip, 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 zip. So there's actually a lot going on in these areas. Like over here, I got people sleeping inside of these flat houses. There's little bedrooms inside. And when you design a building, you actually design where a lot of this stuff goes. I've got, for example, over here, got a lot of noise. Mostly the noise is actually from here. I'll go back up to this medium speed so that you don't hear the noise of the woodcutters and these guys. But yeah, like I have a lavatory so that they can relieve themselves. There's an eatery for getting food. Now these people will eat on their own right out of the storage, but you can, for example, you can tell people that, okay, your food, you can increase the amount of rations that they get. So right now they're at a 2 ration per day. But in order for them to actually get these foods, they have to go to a food service, right? So they have to go to like this eatery here if they want to get their 2 rations. And that improves their happiness. Happiness means more people will immigrate into my city from my region. And depending on which sort of species are happier, then that'll increase the amount of that type of species that migrate in. So I probably, because I have about 800 people just in agriculture, and then I think I have another 65 who are in bakeries. So I've got, I probably should try to get another like 200 food producers, like just working at producing food, because at least then if I have a big enough surplus of food, I can get that, I can increase like the ration load, right? So different types of food, people tend to prefer different species. So like if I go to, I think it's under just general info. So humans, for example, they prefer bread, fish, mushrooms, and eggs. I can't grow my own mushrooms in this biome, and I don't have there's an animal that will produce eggs, but that animal, it's around, but I can only hunt it. I can't actually set up a pasture for it. I only have 2 pastures enabled in this particular map, and that the special one for that is the onyx, which produces cotton at the same time as producing meat. So only really 2 of these food types I can reliably produce for humans. The Cantors are very rare to get, but they like meat, fish, and eggs. These Cretornians, they like vegetables and bread and eggs. So the Tondorians, they like meat, fish, and mushrooms. And then the Garthenes are meat and fish. So I'm trying to do a lot of pastures, right? So that I get cottons. Pastures don't really need a lot of fertility in the area, just room, and then you get meat. You also get like this little resource, which is just livestock. It's surplus animals that you can use to populate other. So when you build like a new pasture, like up here, I have new ones. So these workers will go out, they'll grab these animal boxes, and then they'll load up, and then that will give them a higher amount of meat that they produce. So a lot of it is just sort of managing, making sure everybody's nice and happy, making sure that they got access to foods and services. So like over here, I just recently built another dormitory, and I'm building some monuments and a guard post to increase the law in this area, because I have like 200 workers just in this fishery area here, and then I've got like another fishery over here for 100 people, and so I probably can do like another fishery over here, right? This is an area that's got good fishing resource, so I should probably set up like a 3rd fishery over here so that I have lots of fish, and that'll at least keep the humans and the Dondorians and I think the Garthenes happy. I've currently set up a ration maker to try and produce some rations. That's one of the resources I need if I want to mobilize an army. I will need drinks as well, but I need to get more grain produced and then brew that. I've been mostly turning my grain into bread. Over here I have a bakery, a grain brewer, and then 2 more bakeries set up over here. And then I do have some training going on. Like I've got a target recruitment of about 90 people here, but I can only really train about 80 people at a time. But I've got the training set to max so that they just keep training. So when I go over to the world map, you can see my guys have these gold chevrons on them, so that means that they are like, these ones are a bronze chevron. It goes bronze, then to silver, then to gold. So these guys are very well trained specifically, but their gear is pretty bad. I recently set up a weaponsmithy to try to produce some battle gear, and I could probably look to do more because I've currently overproduced on metals. So I could probably look into either making another weaponsmithy, or I might do toolsmithy, just because, you know, with the tools it makes your workers be more efficient, and that could pay off a little more in the long run. So, and there is a bit of a research system going on. Libraries generate knowledge, and then you can go into here and you can research stuff. When you do spend your research points, it doesn't like end up at it ends up being used, and you have to also maintain it, so you can't just power through the whole thing. You sort of have to specialize, and you can undo tech at least. So it's possible that you could say, you know, that you built your weaponsmithy so you can actually disable this, and it won't like remove your weaponsmithy. You won't be able to make your weaponsmithies more efficient, but it will free up that 300 points if you want to really use it for something else. Like I could save up a whole bunch and try to get the Scythian mine. I'm not actually sure what Scythian is, but I do know I have a deposit of Scythian ore over here. So there's some stuff like that. Like I could look at, getting the big fancy distillery to convert fruits into drinks as well, and then that way it's a bit different way of producing drinks, because drinks are one of the military ration types that you do need to supply them with. You also need to supply them with clothes, so I do have room to build like another textile place, and then another place to make fabrics, and then I can make even more clothing. So one of the main things limiting me from just expanding like crazy is, of course, the population. I do have like 151 free workers, but I think first thing first would be get the food produced, get more food production going on, and then from there I can keep people happy. Worst case scenario, I could increase the food rations to a 3 so that they get more happier, and then I get more workers. And so that would probably be the next step going forwards here. And so it is an interesting game of balancing resources and workers and designing things, because there are some stuff like noise. You don't want noise from industries going over your places where people are sleeping. They generally don't like that. So there's a lot of micromanagement in that regard for making your place run efficiently. So overall, it's a fairly interesting game to play out for just like a city building style medieval game. And it is in continuous development, right? So just fairly recently, like I mentioned, they added a bunch more for your military stuff. I can literally just go over here and say, hey, recruit an army here, and then I could either like hire mercenaries, for example, which would be very expensive, or I could just go to my local population and then recruit just straight up from here. This is the available pool of people that I can conscript from the area, and I can even determine how much training they have, and that'll increase the number of days of training that they require. Equipment would be, I'm pretty sure, what I have to supply them with. So I would need to have if I go all the way up to where my depot is, this one is just set for supplying rations, so I would want at least 3 more of these for battle gear, clothing, and drinks, so that people don't, they don't abandon things. Like these guys, they want at least 2 types of clothing. So for every soldier, you would want 2 clothes. Stuff like that. And you can look into like each person more individually. I think you can even like do some stuff in nobility. You can see what like level of clothing they have, tool levels, jewelry levels. And it gives you a whole bunch of information about them. So, fairly interesting. I'm not too sure about how much these other factions grow. They really haven't grown too much. I don't know if they like fight each other much. I haven't really been spying on that too a lot, but there is quite a bit of trade going on, right? Like I've set up a import-export thing, so you can see there's a ship coming over here. He's bound for my city, and he is carrying raw clay and ore. That's because in my area I have I only really have this one source of clay, right? And so this one source of clay, for me, I produce maybe 100. Yeah, we can see I average out a little over 100 clay produced, but I consume like 200 per year, basically. So I have to import clay from other places. There is one other source of clay. It's way, way. I think it's, yeah, it's way up here. The very top on this island. There's a big clay deposit up here. So I could try to expand up there, but logistically, you'd have to get, housing for your workers and food and things like that. Now, people can walk over shallow water, but it does slow them down. So, currently, they are. This is just subsidizing my clay usage by importing some, and then of course I've got my ore. I only have one ore deposit right here that I've been using. And again, if I go over to my ore, there it is. I only really produce, yeah, you can see 66. I sort of average out around, but I tend to consume like 120, 130. So again, it's a thing where I consume like twice as much as what I can produce here. Now there is over here a nice big source of ore. Pretty good deposit there. I think that's stone there. I know this deposit over here is a whole bunch of clay or coal. Alright, I could set up large amounts of coal production. I'm not really too concerned about coal right now, just because I have quite a bit of trees and I just use charcoalers to produce coal. But I do have a coal mine down here that I haven't really been staffing much, just because I wanted my workers going somewhere else. And this isn't a very efficient coal source, right? Not a whole lot of deposits in here. So I've mostly been creating it by chopping down trees because I have a lot of forestry going on. So overall, yeah, my stone production over here, I can definitely expand my stone production quite a bit. But for now, I definitely noticed that I am a little short on my food producing workforce. So I should look at getting more fisheries, getting more farms set up, and probably turn about 100 of these workers or more into food producers, which I can do very easily. Like this I can set up another fishery place over there. But yeah, when you build a building, right, like if I wanted to, I'd probably want to set up more housing for these areas. So you can start off by setting a room area over here, and you can tell it to just auto build a wall around. You can pick different kinds of modules for a dormitory. There's only beds and knickknacks, and then you can adjust the type, the sort of shape of the beds. And so as you make the beds cycle through the different shapes, these beds serve just multiple spots. So this is like 6 beds, and like this is just the one bed, but it's a 1x3. This is a sort of L-shaped bed size. So when you drop these down, it'll increase the building cost of it, but it'll also increase like the amount of beds you have available here. And then there's a like knickknacks, which increase the coziness. So if you place that down, 83% coziness, so that's sort of like the how comfortable people are when they are sleeping in here. So you generally try to set this up so that it's like a nice 100% coziness, which I've kind of done like with this one here. So I could always just go in and just room copy and then, you know, place that down somewhere. And then they would build this one, which would probably be a good idea for expanding this area, especially if I set up like a fishery over here. So, aside from that, the game does have combat in it. If I go over to this tab, it enables the combat, so you can like deploy your people who right now they just sort of, you can see the little green chevron, so mostly they're training. So I can actually deploy them onto the field, and I think I go like that, right? And I don't think that they are currently deployed. Yeah, I'd have to press this to muster them. But basically you can get attacked in your area where the enemy will spawn in and you can fight them in the map, or you can go to the world and you can actually like battle them outside of there where it generates a small map for you to fight in. And sometimes you have to do that if you get raided by bandits. Though you can always just pay the bandits off, which I've generally been doing just because I've got the money. And the bandits haven't been asking for too much, so it's usually more of a pain to mobilize my army than to just pay them off. But either way, I think that'll be it just for a quick introduction and walkthrough of this game. There's a whole bunch of stuff. I haven't unlocked some of these other things, but yeah, there's stuff with like security. So like I've got a slaver over here, so he's actually been enslaving prisoners every now and then. And I've got jails where they get thrown into prison. They have to serve a certain amount of time. I've recently started playing around with haulers. This is just like a free little building you can plop down. And this has 10 workers who will go out and haul one item you tell them to fetch. They'll then bring it to this spot. So I have him fetching fish so that he can take it to the canteen. So the canteen workers can just go out and they can just walk around here, grab the fish, bring it right over here, and start cooking with it. That way, the canteen stays a little more efficient because the workload was pretty low because they had to go a little further to get food. I don't really have to do that with like this eatery here because this eatery sits right next to a warehouse which is set to fetch with, it's got 40 employees on it, so this is a very busy warehouse where they go all over the place. You can see they're running over here where the bakery is because the bakery, come on, hey, stop clicking on people. The bakery stores a lot of my bread, so they're looking for, this warehouse is set to fetch bread, fetch fish, and basically every other type of food. So these guys are going out to just load this place up, and then the eatery workers just head up there. So that's mostly what I've been trying to get done, just to increase the food efficiency because they're generally happier when they get to eat. But yeah, I do need to look into producing more clothing. That'll make people happier. Produce more tools for more efficiency, use up some of that surplus metal, and of course make more food. So that'll be it for this video. Take care.